What's up, everyone?
What is up, everyone?
What's going on?
Oh man, we are just about to step out into the deep water today.
Yep,
We are.
Yeah.
How's y'all's week going?
Actually, it's going pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a unexpected great time on Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday evening. Yeah, we did this denominational birthday celebration, and it was surprisingly great.
Well, good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I remember you said you had to go down to Memphis for that.
Yeah, and I was not looking forward to it. I had to eat all of my words because
I wasn't gonna say it.
I thought it was going to be just super lame. There were a few cheesy parts of it, but the coolest part was a whole bunch of churches were there, and it was completely multicultural.
Yeah.
It was at a Hispanic church, and they were dedicating the new building at the same time.
That's awesome.
So it was really, really cool. And so first up, we had this husband and wife and he's from Nigeria.
Wow.
And so he played guitar and they sang. She just sings incredibly well. I mean, it was amazing. And they sang, in Nigerian language. And then the Koreans got up.
Okay.
And they brought the whole dang church. I mean, there was probably at least 40 of them.
Really?
Up there. And I don't know if you know this about Asian culture, especially in Korea and Japan. Everybody sings.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. No,
They teach them all how to sing from the youngest age. And they know how to sing parts. They sing them precisely. And it was powerful. It was beautiful. I mean,
You were in hog heaven, huh?
and there was old people and there was young people. And they were just up there giving it.
And could they sing in the pocket?
They were in the pocket.
they were the pocket.
They made the pocket. Yeah. And
People don't know what I'm talking about.
No, they don't.
I didn't know what I'm talking about, but it's the one like deep musical thing that I've heard Brother Peter talk about.
Yeah.
So now I'm always like, do they play in the pocket?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's a cool musical term you can throw around. That's exactly right. And then the Latino worship team got up. And
Man, y'all did have a multicultural.
They were amazing.
That is so awesome.
They had a full band, drummer, keyboard player, bass player, guitar player, and these 3 girl singers, and they sang Revelation song in Spanish.
Wow.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, I bet that's great.
Yeah,
Did they do this? I tell you what, I love like classical Spanish guitar.
They did not do that.
Flamingo.
It would have been great. If
That
they
would.
Did. And then the black church got up.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And it was
Y'all had church.
all men. Some of them were old, some of them were young. And I mean, they blew the roof off the place.
Y'all had
And it was-
church.
yes, we did. And then we had to follow all that.
Oh.
But it went well.
Yeah.
They liked it. They liked us. So, there it goes. And, each pastor of each church prayed for it. Like the Korean pastor prayed for the churches in Asia and our mission efforts there and, on down the line.
Cool.
And they said some really good things about Holly Grove Church.
Did they?
They really did.
That's awesome.
They said that we were the shining example.
Uh-oh.
Well, we might get big heads, man.
I don't know. I don't know.
They haven't watched the podcast.
So anyway, it was a lot of fun. So I thought in honor of that I would do a little churchy joke.
Okay.
So these 2 guys are insanely wealthy, and they decided to take their yacht out, and it's a pretty ambitious trip.
Yeah.
And so when you know it, the storm comes up, and their yacht is trashed, and they're on a deserted island in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
They look around, trying to look for resources, don't know what's going to happen. One of the guys finds his phone, and there's a little bit of charge and a little bit of service. And so he starts texting, and the guy says, "Who are you texting?" He says, "I'm texting my pastor." He says, "Why in the world would you text your pastor?" He says, "Because I'm rich and I'm a tither. He'll find me."
That's good.
That is good.
Yeah. So there you go.
Pat, before we get too deep, do you want to cut that heater off?
Yeah,
It's kind of warming up in here. Are y'all good?
I'm good. I'm good. That's because there's so much hot air.
It is. When I thought it was a little cooler than this.
Yeah. So when we started talking, it got hot in here.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. Did you know Hall's cough drops encourage you?
I did not know that.
I was telling them before we got on air, been sick for a month. So I'm eating these. I got a pile of trash right there. Flex your can-do muscle.
Man.
On a cough drop.
Yep. Get back
All
in
right.
there, champ.
You know,
That's,
I'll tell you
champ.
guys, I need some encouragement, man. We lost 2 heroes in
I
a
know,
week. You
I
know?
feel like we needed to give him a shout out.
Yeah, Carl Weathers, man, Apollo Creed. That just utterly broke my heart.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I wake up and realize Toby Keith died
Toby Keith.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that, man, that's sad. That's 2 people I grew up with, you know, watching and listening to, and that's 2 more gone, man.
He should have been a cowboy.
Yeah. Carl Weathers, man. I want to say the quote from Predator
Dude, I felt like Rocky in part 4, man.
when they hug each other in the water.
No, when Paulo dies.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I was right there.
I just wonder if Jesus greeted him like they do in Predator.
Look,
if he went up and went, Dylan, and grabbed, and they had to flex.
Look, me and Matt Miller, we had a memorial for Carl Weathers Sunday. We watched
Nice.
Predator, we watched Rocky 4, and we watched Happy Gilmore.
Man, y'all did.
Yep.
Did y'all watch Happy Gilmore last?
Yes.
So he had the happy ending of him waving.
Got to
Absolutely.
do that. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
What's your favorite Toby Keith song?
That's a tough one.
Red Solo Cup.
Man, for being a veteran, I would have to say American Soldier, man. That's my jam.
Yeah. I think should have been a cowboy. I mean, that was the first one out of the box. And the thing that many people don't know is that Toby Keith was one of the few that wrote almost all of his own hits.
Really?
And he wrote them with a guy named Chuck Cannon.
Yeah.
And the 2 of them were just a winning combination. They wrote songs for other people too. But almost every hit he ever had, his name is on it.
You know, Toby Keith's song "God Lover," that makes me think of me and my wife. It really does. Because when me and Stacy got together, I was just hell on wheels, and she steered me correct.
She took a chance on it.
She
There you
did. Several.
I'm pretty sure we can all sit here and say that we all married up.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Way up.
So, in honor of Toby Keith and in honor of Carl Weathers, hit that button.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because that's what they would want you to do.
That's right.
They would smash that like button. They would smash
Full
that
fist.
subscribe,
Yes.
and they would smash the little bell.
And
That's
Toby
exactly
Keith would
right.
write a song about it.
Yes, he
He
would.
would, and Apollo Creed would punch you in the face if you don't do it. So, the dancing, what they call him? The dancing destroyer.
Yeah.
Love that.
You got enough names? We almost done, Paulie.
Yeah.
Almost done, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
what?
I could call myself the dancing destroyer.
You could.
Yeah.
For sure.
What the heck are we talking about tonight?
See, I've been kind of putting this off.
Yeah. Let's
Because
cut through the scuba line here and get down to the
Yeah.
that's preposterous. Okay, so this is another one in our Taboos series. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a different kind of take.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically, the taboo, if you wanted to call it a taboo, would be sex before marriage. That's pretty good taboo,
As
don't
I
you think?
adjust my mic,
Okay.
let's get into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what we want to do is we want to talk mostly about kind of the misguided ways that the church has handled this whole issue.
Yeah.
We obviously, from scripture and just, kind of from general knowledge about culture and the way people work, we all think it's a good idea to not have sex before marriage.
Correct. Yeah.
It's just a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a godly concept. So we want to just lead with that. If it's a good taboo.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the way that we've kind of gone about addressing this has really been, we've taken a lot of twists and turns, and we've sent a lot of mixed messages.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Done a lot of damage.
yes. And I think I want to kind of set this up by saying that, the modern church, say from maybe the late 80s until now, kind of the rise of the moral majority, and
Yeah.
church kind of became the moral police kind of thing. We've been just really, really, really focused on sexual things.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite podcasts, The Holy Post, Sky Jitani coined a term, and I think that it's appropriate here that we've gotten into crotch Christianity. So,
Nice.
it just such a heavy emphasis on this. And once again, and when we get back to the larger picture with all this kind of legalistic stuff, we're focusing so much on what we're not supposed to do,
Right.
that we sort of fail to focus on the good side of things.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what we're talking about here. And what we'd like to talk about first, just to kind of get into this subject. And I realize, three rednecks men talking about women is going to be a little bit odd.
Yeah.
But
I resemble that remark.
well,
I'm not a redneck.
you're a redneck at heart.
I'm redneck-ish.
Redneck
gonna say,
adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say anything. I got a handlebar mustache.
There you go. See? There you go. No, I understand, but partly why we wanted to do this is because I know that there's a lot of, well, especially young women and even some married women who were impacted by this, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And the minute that I opened up this subject with some of the women at our church, they're going, you got to talk about this.
Yeah.
You have to talk about this because this is something that we all went through and nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, and by us not talking about it, it's like that standing rule. You know what I mean? It's still the elephant in the room that everyone's like, well, do I abide by this?
Mm-hmm.
Is this how I'm supposed to be?
And from a man perspective, the men have been given some terribly destructive messages as well.
Absolutely. And we do what we do best. We take no responsibility for it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, and this is just kind of the way it's been presented to us. So what we want to do is kind of, we want to really bust some bad teaching here.
Yeah.
And we want to do it from a man perspective because we want all of you men and women out there to know that you don't have to think this way.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are people in this world who don't think this way. And we want to think a little bit deeper. We want to kind of, go beyond just the face value stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today. And so I'm going to open up talking about this whole issue of modesty.
The 11th commandment, thou shalt not wear yoga pants.
That's it. Thou shalt not wear spaghetti straps.
I worked with a guy when I was machining.
Yeah.
And it was a dude that actually pointed this out. He wore long sleeve button down, and he wore khaki pants, blue jeans maybe, but he wore pants and a long sleeve button down every single day. And he had an undershirt on, because it would be in the middle of summer. We'd be doing something like if we had to unload a truck or something, he would be just dripping in sweat.
I bet he smelled great.
Oh, I know. Well, I asked him one time, he was a younger guy, and I said, dude, why don't you wear it? Because everybody else is wearing a t-shirt. A lot of people wearing shorts. And I'm like, dude, why don't you wear shorts or a t-shirt? And he said, if I expect my wife, or he said, how can I expect my future wife to be modest if I myself am not modest?
Wow.
How can he expect to have a future wife if he dies of heat stroke?
Hey, yeah, I know.
The ongoing joke is, in the summertime, you can only take off so much clothes. In winter, you can put on as much as you want. You know how much I'm taking off in the summer? As much as I can legally get away with.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to sit out here and die of a heat stroke because you can't help but look at me.
Yeah.
I'm this great looking thing. Right. But still, that's how everyone should feel.
So, but I actually I was like, this might be the first dude that I've ever heard that's like, a lot of times you hear dudes that are like, well, I want my woman to do this, be a certain way, but they're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. No, this dude, like, legit, he's never wore, I don't know if he owned except an undershirt. I don't know if when he got home, he probably unbuttoned this other shirt. He like closed the blinds before he took off his button down.
Essentially, he's got some really tan hands.
Yes. Yes.
But now, and we want to get a lot of shout outs from the women here, especially if we get something wrong, tell us we got it wrong. Okay. So
comment below.
Yeah.
We are not experts by any stretch of the imagination.
We're just taking a look.
But I do know that this is the message that young girls are given from the age of 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That they need to dress modestly, and that means cover up as much skin as possible.
Well, I got a quick question then. You have a daughter.
Yeah.
We have daughters. What do you tell your kid?
Well, I just never really thought about it too much. Miss Karen probably told them a lot of stuff. Probably made them wear some stuff that they didn't want to wear. And we got into the little when they were wearing the short shorts that showed off half your butt cheeks.
Yeah.
We said no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I never made him walk around in flour sacks, because I didn't think that was good.
Yeah.
But that is, especially, Christian schools have dress codes. The shorts have to be below the knee. Skirts have to be below the knee, ankle length, and all this kind of stuff. And the reason given is so that it won't make boys lust and sin.
Yeah.
You know what I tell my daughter? Don't show anybody your phone number.
There you go.
That's what I tell her. Don't show anybody your phone number. Keep your phone number hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what that's done is it's really kind of given girls the message that somehow they're less than.
Yeah.
Somehow that they are dangerous. In fact, there's this little article that I found that was really kind of chilling. It says how the purity culture made me afraid of men. We're going to get to the purity culture in and of itself in just a minute, but it really kind of dwells on this modesty thing. She says, eventually I ended up kind of scared of guys my age because after all, they were all sex crazed maniacs who couldn't help but undress me with their eyes during every conversation. They might pretend to be interested in me for myself, but I knew the truth. They only wanted one thing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
See, that's where I say it kind of frustrates me. Like, I mean, I think that, I'm a man. Do I think that we're relatively simple creatures for the most part? I do. Yep. I do. But at the same time, we're also not just a bunch of animals. Like, we do have self-control, whether we want to acknowledge that or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't have self-control, I feel like we'd all be, I'd be running around, I'd be drinking bourbon all the time and eating caramel cake all the time. And you obviously we have some self-control, but I feel like.
You mean to tell me if a girl walks by, it's not on her if you look at her?
Man,
how dare you?
I don't want to remove the responsibility from myself, man. Come on.
No, I agree 100%.
But and this is a little bit extreme, but I'll bet you anything that there are some women out here who've dealt with the same issue. She says this got into her head so much that she said, I intentionally cared nothing about my appearances. I wore no makeup, took no care for my hair besides putting it up in rough braids or a ponytail, and wore the baggiest clothes I could find, often roomy skirts with oversized t-shirts. I put on extra weight. If I wasn't attractive, I figured, then perhaps a guy would marry me for me instead of for my body.
Dang.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And she says that in her school, they had a modesty sweatshirt. And it was this giant, oversized, ratty, filthy kind of stained sweatshirt. And if you showed up in something that the teachers considered showing too much, you had to wear that sweatshirt all day.
Public shaming's always a good way to go. Yeah. That's always your go-to.
That's what Jesus did all the time. Yeah. Oh, well, he did call Peter Satan one time. There is that.
Wow.
So, where did we get this, Logan?
Well, it's kind of funny. What you mentioned, what we're going to talk about in just a minute, but I even actually kind of thought all the way back to the Prohibition era.
Yeah.
Because there was that group, you had this group that was very much anti-alcohol, and they were kind of goody two-shoes, is what I would say. And they had this whole, they would even put on theatrical performances, and it would show the men beating their women and all this stuff. And I always kind of somewhat felt like some of this purity or this extreme modesty kind of maybe stemmed from that kind of philosophy or those people for a little bit. But that would have been probably too long ago, because that would have been before the 60s, which was a very experimental time.
I'll tell you this, is in the colonial times, how much clothes you wore was a status of how much money you had.
Yeah.
And so they would wear these extremely elaborate layers of clothes. And Puritans had that same dress style, not to show their money or whatever, but to cover themselves completely.
Yeah.
And so when you're starting with a blanket to wear, if you transition to the sheet, it's whoa.
Yeah.
Look out.
But what kind of trips me out on that a little bit is them chicks in the corsets.
Oh, I know.
Because there wasn't much for the imagination there.
Sure enough.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, how did that come to be, I wonder?
Well, they just found ways to get around it, because technically they were still
covered
in between the guardrails. Exactly.
But where did it come from?
Well, it really it came from this phenomenon called the purity culture. Now, it was already brewing, I would say, shortly after the sexual revolution in the late 60s.
Yeah.
It really happened then,
Do you think that maybe that same, like, say, that prohibition group had been kind of driving that kind of stuff down their throat so hard that it burst in the 60s?
It's a philosophy that goes back, it goes back centuries.
Yeah.
And it really, if you go back to, even medieval times or biblical times, even, women were property.
Yeah.
And so you had to make sure, there was arranged marriages and so you just made sure you protected your property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had daughters, they, tight fisted. But then, of course, then the modern world kind of, develops. A lot of this is a holdover from the Victorian era.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that was just kind of underneath the surface, kind of brewing underneath the surface. And then the sexual revolution came, and then we got into the 80s, and then the rise of the moral majority. That kind of was a catalyst, because the moral majority was going to be the police of the world, and they were going to basically force Christian values on everybody. They wanted to take over. This was
essentially the Reagan years, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, just right before and into the Reagan years. Jerry Falwell and his whole crowd, and they were really, they wanted to take over the government and impose Christian values and Christian principles, and
and this bled into the early 90s as well, did it?
Well, yes, it did.
Yeah.
And then it really bled over into this whole purity culture phenomenon. Now, once again, I'm not saying we should not have Christian values in government.
Correct.
In civic life, Christian values are awesome. Half of our, Constitution and Bill of Rights is Judeo-Christian values.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But we do live in a pluralistic society. And so, mandating things and shaming and, all that kind of stuff just generally doesn't work. Same with, it's the same concept as prohibition. It actually just want to make people to, they want to drink more.
Exactly. This will probably, I wonder, did you experience this in your career when they did the ban on lyrics in music? When Dee Snider went to Capitol Hill and talked to Al Gore and all that. And Tipper Gore was telling him that one of his lyrics was insinuating a sexual act.
Yes.
And he told her, he's like, no, I wrote this about a dental operation I had. And so do you think that kind of was a lot of the same mindset we read into and see sin in anything we want?
Absolutely. And once again, it was a moral consciousness. That we're going to impose morality, our version of morality, Christian morality, on the whole nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that kind of it's kind of subsided some in the 90s, and then it found new life in this purity culture movement, and it was a movement.
Stout.
And so some of you can think back to your youth group days, and you'll say, well, we didn't really, do the whole, I don't even know what that is. Well, even if you didn't call it that, you were impacted by that.
It was present.
It was in the water. It was in the air. It was in the atmosphere. It was everywhere.
Well, I do remember the promise rings.
Yes.
Is what they were called. Yes. A lot of them. Yeah.
Well, even in the vocabulary.
Vocabulary?
Vocabulary.
It's even just, what expression I hate is modest is hottest.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks, Grandma. It takes over.
But once again, going back to your buddy, why is it the girls that have to be modest?
Right.
Yeah.
Guys take off their shirts all the time. You go to church camp.
Yeah.
Guys are walking around without shirts all the time.
Girls wearing
I know.
long sleeve shirts on the beach. Yeah.
And t-shirts in the swimming pool and the whole thing.
Trying not to drown and dehydrate at the same time.
Yeah, they got a 20-pound shirt on.
Yeah, exactly. But
this is fun.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't want to miss this because, we don't want, it's not appropriate for women or men to dress seductively.
Correct. Yeah. I will never advocate for girls wearing G-string bikinis out on the beach for, I'm not just, but I'm also like, you don't have to have just your eyeballs visible. This isn't Iraq.
That's right.
If Marcy and I went to the beach and she showed up in like a turtleneck bikini,
make fun of
I would
my
be
wife.
like, I am not going out on the beach with you.
I'm like, you look 90.
Yes.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if she showed up in a thong and, almost nothing on at all and was walking up and down the beach like that, you probably would get a little uncomfortable, wouldn't you?
I'm going to ask Stacey if she's been drinking.
Maybe.
I mean,
so you been drinking? What's wrong with you?
Maybe not at the pool, but maybe on the beach.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are two sides to it, and I get it.
For sure.
I get it.
Sure. There's some common sense ground.
But the overwhelming message. Now, this all started in 1997.
Okay.
I figured it'd be the 90s.
Yeah.
Crazy. That was the Christian freak era.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it started with a book written by a 19-year-old young man named Joshua Harris.
He was 19 when he wrote it?
19. Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Kudos to him.
And it was called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And it took off, sold millions of copies. It's still being sold today. And that book, ran through every single church youth group because finally they had a tool. It was like, we can enforce this. We can, and they made something pretty elaborate out of it. So in this book, he literally kissed dating goodbye. It's like nobody should date anymore. It's only courtship. And he defines courtship as being supervised by the parents, that it should always be done, like no one-on-one dates.
Yeah.
And no kissing. You have your first kiss on your wedding night.
Was he married at the time he wrote this book?
Mm-mm.
Sounds like he was a real hit with the ladies.
Well, he ended up getting the interesting thing about this is that he actually started his own church, and the church got really big, and he was the pastor
When he was that young?
at like 25 years old.
Jeez, that's still crazy young.
I know. He was everywhere, speaking at conferences. He was doing he wrote a follow-up book.
What is his background at 19? Like, what made him
a virgin?
Well, definitely, for sure.
I'm assuming. I don't know, but he had been through some personal stuff, and he said that dating was just a setup for failure. It was a setup for disappointment. It was a setup to get your heart broken, and then it often led you into sex before marriage and inappropriate contact and all these different kinds of things. And and out of that kind of came this philosophy that anybody that you hook up with, that creates a soul tie. And so you have a soul tie to everybody that you've slept with.
Yeah.
And so now when you get married, now you got no soul left. You got very little soul left.
You didn't give it away.
It's tied to all these other people.
Can't even sell it to the devil.
That's it. Sell just a little bit of it.
Kiss your music career goodbye.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got to see if mine's still in there somewhere. Not sure. But what this did was it developed into this whole the mantra of the purity culture movement was true love waits.
Okay.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that.
And I remember when I very first started the Renaissance program at Bethel in 2004, there were several girls who had come out of the homeschool culture and all that kind of stuff, and they actually had tattooed
True love waits?
True love waits, yeah.
Wow.
Just to remind themselves.
So explain to me this courtship process.
Okay. So what happens here? Before there's any possibility of courtship, there has to be the purity ball.
Okay. Now, if I'm correct, this is the formality of it.
Yes, this is when a young woman is coming of age. She's getting to the place where, you know, she's in her teenage years. Now she's going to, you know, start thinking about, you know, the prospects of marriage at some point. So, and I don't know if these are still done today, but it was a big deal in the early 2000s.
You know what I'm picturing?
What?
In A Knight's Tale, when they go to this dance and they're like dancing real funny and, and they're dressed, and that's like, I feel like they're having to do that. And the parents are watching. And
Okay. Yeah. Good pull.
Yeah.
Good pull.
And this one young woman tells of her experience with all this stuff.
All right.
She says that she was in ninth grade. Her mom paid a big fee for her to go through this process. And in the process, there was a class, 12-week class. And it was all these young women. And they would discuss, she said most were younger than me, middle school age. In the class, we discussed and later made promises to abstain from premarital sex, including any kind of premarital fornicating, such as you would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Fill in the blank.
Pornography, sexually explicit music, purchase of vain magazines, use of nicotine, alcohol, or drugs, cohabitating before marriage, same-sex relationships, sexually explicit movies, use of profanity, and overeating or unhealthy eating.
Wow, so they did put an eating part in there.
Apparently.
I'm kind of surprised they
Mind,
included
body,
that.
soul, I guess.
Yeah. And so this whole thing led up to, prepared for the big old purity ball.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this was preparing you for that.
Yep. And so this was, you know, like the graduation ceremony kind of thing. And she says the first father-daughter, and they're always father-daughter purity ball was held in Colorado Springs in 1998. It was a wedding-like event where the daughters dress up in fancy white gowns and fathers in tuxedos to make the pledge to ensure her purity. So the daughters, the dad walks the daughter down the aisle to a table, an altar table, and a cross. And so the daughter puts a white rose at the altar to symbolize the pledge, and the fathers promise to protect their daughters and be examples of good men, to show his child how a man should treat her. They had a keynote speaker, a fancy dinner, formal father-daughter dance. I'll bet that was a hoot.
I bet that was.
At the end of the event, each daughter is given a purity ring, which she is to wear until marriage as a physical representation of her commitment. Her dad puts it on the, you know, the left, the wedding hand.
See, I remember.
I'm a little creeped out.
Yes. And she says, I remained nervous throughout the entire event. My dress was too big and slightly uncomfortable. And apparently everybody else had a father. She only had her mother, which made it even more awkward.
Yep.
And the class required that students make a video explaining why we wanted to live a life of purity. And they showed the videos.
Jeez.
Yeah, at this thing. She says every now and then she finds her video on YouTube and relives the moment.
It's on YouTube?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. In the video, she says, I explained to the camera that the class had given me the knowledge to navigate marriage and relationships. Did it? Did it really?
Oh, I need
I was
that class
say
then.
maybe I need to take that
I was
class.
gonna say that's $1 million class.
I've
right
been
there.
trying for 30 years to navigate marriage and relationships.
I need to take notes.
Yeah. So back at the ball, after small talk and mediocre food, it was time to verbally pledge my abstinence. The parents placed the rings on our fingers, our wedding fingers. And according to the founders of Purity Balls, the purpose and vision of this event is for young women to realize how precious they are, that they are very much worth waiting for, and that parents, mostly fathers, must protect daughters from unhealthy relationships and offer them hope, love, and security.
Wait. So they go through this 12-week class, tells them to stay, you know, they got this food and health thing in there too. And then she just says they fed them mediocre food.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's probably really healthy, right?
Yeah.
But they prayed, Lord bless us food and nourishment our bodies. You know, one thing about that I'll say that's crazy, but then the other parts that I like, I do think that a dad is very, very pivotal part in showing his daughter her self-worth. But they're taking it to extremes here. Like I even like the idea. I mean, my daughter she'll be 6 in a week, or a little over a week. I like the idea of taking her on her first date.
Yeah.
Like just me and her, and like explaining to her how much she means to me and her worth. But like making them sign a contract, putting a purity ring on, man, I don't know. I think that's getting pretty extreme.
Yeah. I feel like our job as fathers is to encourage our kids, to give them confidence, right? Like I feel like hopefully my daughter sees the way I treat my wife, and says, okay, that's going to be the closest thing they resemble a functioning marriage, right? Yeah. But let's say that there is no wife or husband in the picture. It is a single parent, right?
Yeah.
And so you're kind of at a disadvantage. And I feel like single parents especially would probably fall into this a lot easier than a nuclear family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some significant problems with this. Now, it wasn't just the purity ball. This was done, kind of church adjacent. Mm-hmm. But this book and the teaching that reinforces all of these principles was saturating youth groups and churches at this time.
It was present.
Present everywhere.
Okay.
And so most of the youth pastors would do some version. They would take them through this book or something like it. And it seemed like every book about sex and relationships and dating and all those things for teenagers just had all this stuff in it. And
this also seems like it puts a lot of responsibility on the father for the child's dating life.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, it puts all of the responsibility.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not my department.
Yeah. I don't want to be sitting there at every date with them.
Well, I mean, I don't want to pick who my daughter decides to be with.
If she brings home a doofus, I'll tell her I think he's a doofus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah. I feel like that's necessary.
Yeah. And I oftentimes I was known to say, son, I've got a gun, a shovel, and an alibi. Just keep that in your mind.
Yes. Yep. Oh, that's what I can't wait for that.
I'm not scared to go back to prison.
I'll tell him.
I like that one too.
Well, that's what I've thought about. I'm like, man, I got a track hoe. Like, I'll tell him, like, I'll bury you and the truck you came here in.
Exactly. Oh, man.
I make things disappear.
Yes.
Yeah. I only said that a few times.
7.
The women in my life corrected me. But anyway, so there's this organization, this podcast blog. This woman's name is Sheila Gregoire, and she has a daughter, Rebecca Lindenbach, and they have this podcast called Bare Marriage, BARE. And they did a whole series on modesty, purity culture, all this stuff. And so this is a blog post that she wrote outlining the 10 components of purity culture. So you guys just give me a little feedback here when you hear these. Okay. So purity culture redefined purity to mean virginity.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That's the gold standard. I mean, that's the one thing, if you made it to the finish line and everything was in its right place, then you win.
Oh, so the rest of the sexual immoralities doesn't matter.
Well,
what
matters,
classifies. That's what people used to. It was funny on this purity culture thing.
Yeah,
people used to try to bend the lines like they're always going to. It's like, well, we didn't do this, we did that. That's not the same.
We didn't have sex.
Yes,
exactly. We didn't have sex.
I never had sex with that woman.
Yeah. Yes, Bill Clinton would be very pure according to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to get. There's a whole point to this here in just a minute. Okay. So, and she says, your purity or your spiritual state is based on something that you did in the past, or even worse, something that was done to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's no longer about your belief in Jesus. You can believe in Jesus all you want and still not be pure.
Yeah.
So it's an all or nothing thinking.
Yeah.
If you had sex with somebody before you were married, you were damaged goods. So, and she makes a great point. We taught girls to protect their purity, but we didn't teach them how to protect themselves.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So, second, purity culture reduced one's faith to one's sexual backstory.
Yep.
It did literally become all about sex.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One's prayer life was all about purity. One's focus was all about purity.
Yeah.
Other aspects of the Christian life seem to evaporate into thin air.
This could be a precursor to why we see so much church hurt in this generation.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll bet you anything we're going to get some comments about that.
Yep.
Because there you go. 3, purity culture made dating into a sin.
Oh man, what you said.
Yeah, I didn't know that dating was not good. I thought dating was great.
I did too. I enjoyed dating.
Yeah, and I used to, I used to get like instruction from older men
And
that had been
How to
through
pick
it.
up more women.
Yeah, well, they would say, you open the door.
Yep.
You always get the check. Here's the way you go and pick up a young woman.
Yeah.
If you're driving a car, all that stuff.
And this is also to say too, like back in my day when I was, high school, just fresh out of high school, I was hell on wheels. And not every one of my dates was, we went to dinner, we went to a movie, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like every time you go on a date, there's that porn movie being made.
Yeah.
No, it's like, people can just go out and have a meal or go watch a flick or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Here's number 4. Purity culture taught that teens were not capable of making decisions and thus needed others to do so.
Oh yeah, let's not trust them at all.
And then you're really preparing them for a disaster when they do get out of the house.
Yeah, because then they become adults who can't make decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
They've never had responsibility in their life. And then suddenly when they find themselves in positions where they need responsibility or it requires, but they're like, I don't know what to do.
And you know
exactly
what?
right.
This is Peter is the exception to this because you are a preacher's kid. Your kids are preacher's kids, but usually growing up, you look at the preacher's kids.
I know.
They were the worst ones.
I've seen Footloose.
Yeah.
Well, I did become a nightclub musician, and that my parents got a lot of grief for that. Yeah. So it says a form of courtship where the father, especially of the girl, looked around for a good match and encouraged his daughter in that direction became much more normal. Parents were supposed to give the final okay for a marriage and supervise the courting couple to be sure that they wouldn't go too far. They weren't. It says, in effect, single adults were not really treated as adults.
Yeah.
That's true.
See, it just creeps me out that a parent is responsible for who dates their child.
I know.
And in my mind, no one is good enough for my daughter until they convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
it's on that person to show me that they're a good person.
I remember my oldest daughter, she had just started a date and she was dating a doofus. I mean, she really was. and so I didn't say anything. I tried to be cool. And she said, she said, Dad, so-and-so thinks that you don't like him.
He's right.
And I said, I don't like him. But Dad, he's my boyfriend. I said, it's not my job to like your boyfriends. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I can dislike your boyfriends.
Yeah.
I'm never going to dislike you.
Yeah.
But I just, it's something about him rubs me wrong. So
There's no rule
sorry.
that says the dad has to like the boyfriend.
Correct.
I said, my default is suspicion.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be suspicious.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there
They
you
can
go.
win me over. They can
They
definitely
sure
win
can.
me over.
They
Yeah.
sure can.
It's funny, man, how some just like I'm thinking back because again, my daughter's nowhere near old enough where I'm to that point yet.
Yeah.
But I can think back to myself and when I was dating.
Remember having to meet the dads?
Yes.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I mean, I can think of one right now. He hated me. And of all honesty, I was probably one of the nicer guys that his daughter ever dated. But he literally hated my guts.
Yeah.
The minute we quit dating, I had seen him in town, and he's like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" Like, he shook his hand. I'm like, "What the crap?"
Yeah, you're okay now.
Yeah.
You're out of my life.
Yeah.
There are fathers out there that hated my guts.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into every one of my girlfriend's dads really liked me. And they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So you had a good poker face.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I thought I did, but I guess,
I had a pretty good show.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Plus, I play piano at the church. Hey, what's not to like about that? Right?
That's true. That's true.
Okay. So 5, purity culture made any physical contact a sin, not just sex.
Yeah.
So that was the old slippery slope thing.
Because it would lead to sex.
Yeah.
If you give a mouse a cookie kind of thing,
No sex because it'll lead to dancing.
That's
You'll-
exactly
you'll-
right.
Yep. You'll be thinking about.
Yeah.
what's to
Well,
come.
and it says everything, it seems, could lead to sex. Everything, because kissing leads to making out, and making out can lead to sex. We need to stop kissing.
Yeah.
But holding hands leads to kissing, so maybe we shouldn't hold hands either. And it just spins out of control.
Yeah,
their elbows touch, and it's like, whoa.
And she makes a bold statement right here.
Uh-oh.
Kids, cover your ears. The idea of waiting until marriage to kiss has simply never been a part of Christian practice.
Whoa.
Woo. You go, Sheila.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
You mean you didn't wait till you were married to kiss?
Yeah, Pastor.
I probably kissed a pig a couple of times before. That's ridiculous. So this actually, became a stigma. If you saw a couple that it was dating and kissing, you just assumed.
Yeah.
They're doing the worst.
They're evil.
Leave some room for Jesus.
Okay, this is a really important one, and this I want to get some amens from the ladies out there because this was highly prevalent, probably still is today. 6, purity culture taught that self-control wasn't possible, especially for boys.
Man, yep.
It makes us like animals.
Yep.
And this, even when I was a hellion, this bothered me hearing people say, well, that girl in that low cut short, what is she doing? I was like, well, hell, we're the one looking at it.
Yeah.
Why are you paying attention to it?
That's it.
If back then, man, if I heard somebody saying that, I'd be like, what's wrong with that low cut shirt? I'm like, I like that shirt. I'd encourage her. Wear that shirt again.
But still, I don't care. Where we look is our responsibility. I mean, if you notice it and you're like, okay, I shouldn't be looking over here. Cool, check. You did your job.
Yeah.
But when you do this number, well, that's not that girl's fault. That's your fault.
That's right. We're going to talk about that at the end.
Did this dude, he kind of, the guy that wrote that book, did he kind of lead that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was kind of like, it's the girl's fault.
That's it. Because boys can't control themselves. That's the way God made them.
Yeah.
Every husband try to explain that to your wife.
Well, I mean,
I can't help it, honey. Yeah.
But that's going around in marriages today.
That's
I'm just
crazy.
I'm just telling
My
you.
wife would beat me.
Yeah. I wouldn't get no. Anyway, so the question used to be, if you went too far, the question would be, why did you let it get that far? During purity culture, the question would have been, why did you start in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you start, you can't stop. You have no self-control.
Yeah.
So since self-control wasn't possible, we're just going to eliminate all the temptation. We're just going to, just put on a suit of armor and just wait until you're married.
Belt.
Yeah,
total.
exactly.
So you're telling me it's total depravity.
But it says the idea that people can't help it once they start was doubly true for boys. In their survey of 7,000 women for their book, She Deserves Better, almost 70% of women said they believed as teens that boys can't stop in a makeout situation. So it's a girl's responsibility to be the gatekeeper. That's what they were taught in their youth group.
That's wild.
Yes.
It is.
It is wild. So we just bashed that myth. 7, purity culture put the responsibility for boys' bad behavior on girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
See point number 6.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But this goes a little bit farther because they're not only the gatekeepers once something gets started, but they're also responsible not to get guys going in the first place by dressing modestly and never, ever flirting. Because you can't give boys any ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. This other article that I read said in a Christian book about dating that you weren't supposed to show up anywhere with wet hair if you're a girl, because then the boys knew that you'd just been in the shower naked.
Yeah.
And this whole no flirting thing, I know several guys that if a girl just says, "Oh, you're so funny," immediately like, "Oh, dude, you think she thinks I'm hot?
Yeah.
You know, she likes me." I'm like, "Dude, she just said you're funny."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Come on. Now.
What defines flirting? Come on.
I was voted the biggest flirt in like junior year.
Oh, look at you.
Does your mom know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
See, I was just not in. I guess I wasn't hip with the purity culture.
So it was the girls' responsibility because the guys were just, like I said, made like animals.
Yeah.
And this is the worst thing about it is it gave all the boys free pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
man, you can't control yourself anyways.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, well, I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Because that's the way God made me.
Yeah.
Bad stuff. 8, purity culture saw girls' bodies as inherently dangerous.
Is that where the expression "that's a bad girl" came from?
Could be. So boys' sex drives can't be controlled. So the next best thing is to try to control the bodies of the girls around them. Turns the girls into weapons against men. Focus on the Family's Brio magazine called girls. This is a magazine for Christian teenage girls.
Okay.
It called girls walking temptations to be used by Satan.
Like I said, it's encouraging.
Wow.
Very encouraging.
Seriously, you know what this reminds me of? Yeah. It reminds me of the behavior in North Korea.
Really?
Yeah, because North Korea, you're only allowed 2 haircuts as a woman or as a man. You are only allowed to dress a certain way, and you got to behave. It sounds just like North Korea.
Wow. A popular dating book aimed at middle school age girls says that they have to cover up their bellies because their bellies could be intoxicating and cause grown men to get out of control. Intoxicating. 8-9-year-old girls don't even know what intoxicating means. It just sounds really bad.
Yeah.
Talking about a belly?
Yeah. Cover up your belly. Huh. It told girls that all men will always see you as a sexual object and declared that God made it this way. So it wasn't okay to complain if boys or men were creepy. If they were, it was on you because of what you wore.
Wow.
Man, you're talking about setting up some victims.
We're going to talk about that as soon as we get done with 9 and 10. 9, purity culture used fear tactics and bribes rather than information.
Okay, I'm interested.
Okay. So when purity culture talked about why you should wait for marriage, it used fear-based messages. It warned against pregnancy, STDs, death. Wow.
You will get chlamydia and you will die.
What movie is that?
Mean Girls.
Yeah.
If you have sex, you will get chlamydia and you will die.
Now here, take some condoms.
And
okay.
They told kids that if they didn't wait to marriage, they would never experience real intimacy in marriage. They would ruin their chances for it. It told kids that they created soul ties with everyone they had sex with or everyone who had abused them.
Wow.
These ties would remain and make it harder to bond with the person that you marry.
Well, how dare they get abused?
Yeah, exactly. She says here, we talked with many women who married their rapists because they thought they were bonded to them anyway.
Wow.
What?
And didn't have a choice.
Holy crap.
Yes.
Wow. I did not see that statistic coming.
I did not either.
Yeah. But then there's the flip side. Here's the bribe. If you wait for marriage, you'll have the best sex life ever.
Sorry.
Well, I got a couple buddies that could tell you that ain't so.
Well, we're going to talk about this in a minute too, but I'll just mention it now. What this also does is it takes the place of proper education about sex.
It's off limits, period, until you're married.
So it's just like making a kid ride a bicycle until they're 22 and then handing them the keys to the car.
Yep.
Say, go for it.
Yeah. You got it. You got to figure it out.
This is going to be awesome.
And every time you ask questions about driving a car, we shut it down.
And, it's not that it's not that we're advocating in any way for, hey, go try it out. It's going to, instruction.
Yeah. Get good education.
Yeah. In fact, well, I'll say it now. They interviewed so many young people who did not know the names of all the body parts by the time they got married. They couldn't even.
They need to go read some Song of Solomon.
There you go. Yes. We're talking about Yes. That.
Solomon would not have passed the purity culture.
No. Wow. No. He got a lot of education. Yes, for sure. So, they've never been taught properly, never been given good education. And so, the wedding night comes and, they're both probly terrified.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
I hope our listeners appreciate the level of holdback that the people that know me well that are watching, they're probably like on the edge. My wife's probably on the edge of her seat on this episode.
I talked to your sister-in-law, and she was like, "I can't wait for y'all to talk about this because I know Logan."
I am trying. I'm like, like in Roger Rabbit, there's a part when he's like about to just like he's barely holding in the stuff. That's kind of where I'm at.
But it just goes to show you that it's possible for men, even like us, to have
self-control. There you go. That's right.
See? You see, it's in action right here.
We are proving that the purity culture was wrong.
Exactly. All right, here's number 10. Number 10, purity culture treated information as dangerous. This is where we get to this.
I would say that's really prevalent today as well.
Yeah.
Like learning about the body parts and all that.
So on graduating high school, they were less likely to know the names for girls' body parts, the definitions of consent and date rape, the mechanics of how sex worked, and the fact that there could be pleasure on both sides.
Did they think it was only a one-sided thing?
Yes. They didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They stopped teaching sex ed and replaced it with fear-based messages about don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
So those are the 10 pillars of purity culture. How's it sound so far?
Sounds awesome. Sounds great. Let's bring it. We should implement it in our church.
I will roundhouse you.
That's not good.
That's just, I literally felt the dust coming out of the words. I was like, man.
So,
thanks, Grandpa Cecil.
So here's where I want to kind of examine the consequences, the fallout, the outcomes of this huge movement.
Yeah.
And I mean, it swept across the church. The first fallout, the first negative of purity culture is it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They found that 80% of young people that went through this whole purity culture thing had just as many encounters.
Well, we mentioned the prohibition thing.
Yeah.
It didn't stop them drinking. And like say, it almost makes some people seek it out more. And I would say that did the same thing. It's kind of like it's like this forbidden fruit that's over here. It's like, and then you got to try it, man.
I'm curious, could this possibly turn women off from men altogether?
Absolutely.
You're taught at this age, don't trust men, and it's on you. They can't control themselves. So I don't want anything to do with men.
Here's another. I'm going to skip down my list a little bit here. The incidences of gender dysphoria, especially for women,
went through the roof. Huh?
Yeah.
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 In fact,
and I'm not a doctor, and this is just me getting this at face value. That, makes sense.
And I'm not going to diminish gender dysphoria in general because it's a real thing that happens to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can also be triggered by things like this.
Yeah.
And one of the things I noticed in a bunch of the comments on this article, and there's another one called "Is Purity Culture Trauma?" I noticed a good number of women who claim to be asexual.
Yeah.
The ace movement. And
so they're just not interested in anything.
Yeah. Well, sex is evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And several of them
Says God.
I was just told it was bad so many times that I couldn't imagine it being good.
Yeah.
Even if I was married.
Well, that's unfortunately what I have some good friends that have experienced that. Their upbringing, they were pretty much just told, don't do it. It's bad. Don't do it. It's bad, over and over and over again. So then even when they get married, they have a hard time mentally separating that. But this is bad. All my life, all I've ever heard is how bad this is.
And now I wonder about that. If they feel guilty,
they do.
It's like even having sex with your spouse,
they can't even enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is a shameful act that we're doing.
And this is birthed from the church, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. So
you hear that, youth directors?
Yeah. There are better ways to do this.
I'm telling you.
There are better ways to do this. Wow. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and plug this book that that she and her daughter.
I Kissed Dating Goodbye. Yes.
Not that one. Not that one. This one is called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. No, that was not what it's called.
Is this going to get the Reverent Rebellious stamp of approval?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Full endorsement. It's a book called She Deserves Better.
Okay.
Karma Sutra, I thought you were going to say.
Stamp it, Logan.
You're not showing very much restraint right now. No, She Deserves Better is directed at young women from preteen through their teenage years.
Yeah.
And it's so much healthier. In fact, I hope every youth pastor out there just goes
snatches it up,
just gets it. Yeah, it's better. Because the fallout in the marriage landscape has been tremendous.
Oh man, yeah.
They've got all these just reams of statistics about how damaging it has been for Christian marriages.
Yeah.
So does this book teach morality without damage?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And here's one of the problems. This whole modesty thing, this whole purity culture thing, it all becomes, it's all this weight that's placed on the girls. Mm-hmm. It's only about the girls because you don't see any young men attending a purity ball.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have any, there's no father walking them down the aisle or mother or anything else like that.
you do that, I'm pretty sure they'll be shown straight and narrow forever.
Whew. Yeah.
Come here, son.
Yeah.
No. Oh, God.
So it's all focused on the girls.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's up to the girl and her father to get her to the finish line. And then from then on, she's on her own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's, we talked about this at the very beginning. Virginity is the gold standard, right? Okay. Yeah. So there's this one story about a young woman who's now in her 20s, and she was sitting at kind of a young adults event, and the speaker was just going on and on and on about this purity stuff, and she had been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
She had lost her virginity to somebody who forced it on her, and she said with every sentence he was just shaming her and slamming her again because now here she sits through no fault of her own. Now she's not good enough for anything.
She's impure.
Yeah, exactly. One helpful distinction the writer of this other article makes is that instead of focusing on purity, we should focus on chastity. Mm-hmm. And the difference is not whatever your past was, whether it was your own fault or somebody else's, but it's starting now. I'm going to be chaste. I'm going to be, I'm going to live the kind of life that God wants me to live.
So you mean to tell me that the Lord is not worried about your past? It's worried about what you're doing now?
It seems like I've heard somebody say that sometime.
How dare you?
I know.
What book do you get that from?
But then, where does mercy and grace and forgiveness and and healing and restoration, and even if you commit to chastity now, you know what? If you get off the road, God's going to forgive you and bring you back.
Yeah. And thank God for that.
And he's likely to make good on his promise, which is to give you an abundant life, which includes a spouse, if that's what you want, no spouse, if that's not what you want. There's just so much more to this. But here's some other statistics. I talked about it doesn't work. 80%, had just as much as anybody else. But of those 80%, they had a much higher pregnancy rate because they didn't use any birth control.
Because they just didn't know?
No, because
Probably
then they would have to admit that this is what they were doing.
Yeah. Why would they need birth control if they're promised purity?
Well, and then it's like you're planning for it.
Yeah. That's true.
We wouldn't want to actually plan for anything that we did wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. So more often, and I also know this because all of the work that we've done with confidential care, that a pretty darn high percentage of women who get abortions are Christian women
trying to hide it.
Single Christian women.
They can't let it be known.
Yeah, they would rather kill the baby than to have to admit that they got pregnant.
Now, is that because do you think that's more because they're scared of the consequences or the shame in the church?
Shame. It's all shame because most of them are from, reasonably well-to-do families.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they don't face near the fallout from, somebody who's in poverty and doesn't know how they're going to support a child.
Yeah.
They've got an infrastructure, they got family, they got everything that they need, but they don't want to face the shame.
It would ruin their name.
Yeah.
This is where I gotta say something. As the church, we have to quit being surprised when people sin. We have to stop being surprised when people mess up.
Whether you're poor or you're rich.
And stop shaming them over it. When they mess up, it is our job to extend the Christian fellowship to them and try to help them. Not to say, hey, get the hell out of this church.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what we say in our nice little Christian way.
And I do feel like if I can pat ourselves on the back, I feel like Holly Grove does a pretty good job of that.
I would agree with that.
I don't feel like we are, because there are some churches, and there's a thing, you can really go down the rabbit hole of church discipline. And there's people that they are to the book of church discipline, man.
For sure.
And there's they can back it with scripture. So, I mean, there's sides to both sides, but I'm kind of the guy, I'm like, well, if you kick somebody out of it, I mean, obviously if they're doing something, if they're in the kid's bathroom, there's extremes, but if
we don't kick them out.
Yeah.
We just treat them just bad enough to where they'll want to leave.
Yeah. But if you push them out into the world, then how are they going to find God?
There are specific kinds of situations that we are to disfellowship somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mostly it relates to false teachers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they come in with a bad motive from day one.
Yep.
And I don't read anywhere where Jesus says, "Now you messed up one too many times."
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
the Lord.
What did Jesus say to the woman caught in adultery?
I know.
Go and sin no more.
Yeah.
He didn't say on your way to hell, don't sin anymore.
Yeah.
No, and I believe that he said that with a very compassionate tone.
Absolutely.
You don't have to live this way.
Yep.
You don't have to do this. There's a better life for you. You don't have to go and sin.
And this is kind of the same thing because the woman caught in adultery, she was obviously caught.
Yes.
So where was the man that
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where was he at in
That's
this
it.
situation?
That's
they
it.
didn't care about that. It was just her.
That's exactly right.
So he was kind of compassionate about it. He didn't walk in and say, "What the scubalon? What this scubalon?"
This is a pile of scubalon right here.
This is where
No,
we
he did
see.
not.
This is where we see Jesus himself intervene in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no, this is just on the woman, and he defends the woman and tells her, go and sin no more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he knew that those men were just as corrupt as
Absolutely.
anybody else in the story. So we'll get a few more of these because some of these are very serious. One thing that came out of the purity culture movement that was very negative is it began to commodify the female body. Mm-hmm. The girls belong to a man.
Yep.
It's the father, and then the father hands it off to the suitor or the boyfriend, and then eventually hands her off to the husband. She never has an identity of her own. She certainly never has a sexual identity of her own or an awareness. Yeah, she's
an object.
We're literally going back to ancient Near East times.
Yeah.
That where you and her only worth to her man is
Her
for
body.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what does that say about the father?
Well, it honestly, I feel like what it says to the father is he was sold a bill of goods and bought it
Yeah.
out of good intention. I
Yeah.
mean, who wouldn't want to protect their daughter?
Right.
So here's this framework. Here's this, where I can just, we all want our daughters to have the best possible lives, and that
So we sell
includes their
them.
marriage. And so it's kind of it's kind of that instinct,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when somebody sort of feeds you this thing, it's easy to just, take the bait. And
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of them did.
And
Makes sense.
it does. It makes sense. And and I can't help it. In our day to day, where I feel like you get on Instagram or something, and every girl has an OnlyFans account now.
Oh, man.
And it's like, man, so I feel like there's still as much fire on both sides, where it's
sure.
like, man,
No doubt.
I don't want my daughter going down that path.
I know, and I'm with you 100%. But just because we live in a sexually charged culture
Yeah.
doesn't mean that our response to that has to be
Extreme.
I don't think it can be.
Yeah.
I think we need to teach our young people how to negotiate through that, how to make good decisions instead of bad decisions.
And you know what? I'm kind of wondering now, and I don't know, we probably don't have statistics on this, but it'll be cool to look up. A man's value today is based on his bank account, and a woman's value today is based on her body.
Yeah.
That's the way of the world.
And I'm curious if that is part of that fallout.
Oh, I don't know if they're directly connected. I think that we just do live in a highly materialistic, sexually charged culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think we're just going for whatever our appetites direct us to.
Right.
Which is money and sex.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Which then results in a lot of violence. And
we don't have to worry about the money side of it.
Not on this side of the table.
I'm telling you.
So here's the other side. On the boys' side, we're telling the girls that the boys only want one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're also telling the boys they only want one thing.
Yeah, we're ingraining that in their minds.
Yes, we're not showing them any other option.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I am entitled to always look at a girl this way. I'm entitled to always go after this, and it's her responsibility to stop me. If she didn't stop me, well.
Well, and also one of the things where I think it damages, especially maybe when somebody gets into the marriage side, is it teaches women that they actually don't want sex, and that men are the ones that want sex. And so, what is that like? That basically tells a woman. It would almost tell a woman, if you want sex, then there's something wrong with you, or you're, not to pull Ezekiel 16 here, but
I know. It also tells the women that they are obligated.
Yeah,
man,
and it also tells the men that they're entitled.
Yeah,
this is disturbing.
It is. Here's a statistic right here. When we believe that all men struggle with lust, it's every man's battle, he can't help it. It says that women are 135% more likely to be frequently afraid their husbands will look at pornography or other women.
Wow.
Paranoia. Yeah. They're also 51% less likely to report their opinions being just as important as their husbands. How about that? So, statistics. Okay, back here. Okay, this is really another important statistic. I can't say the word statistic.
Statistic.
Number.
Ambiguity.
It is another important number.
Yeah. Okay. So it makes women more vulnerable to sexual assault, and grooming.
Sure, I can see it, because I feel like this is a grooming to a degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, you are a sexual object.
Right.
This is what you are.
And an overwhelming number of women that are coming out of this sort of scenario, like 92% will not report it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's shameful.
Yeah,
they'll feel shame.
And it's their fault.
Yeah, because men can't help it.
What were you wearing?
Yep.
Where were you? Why were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know the percentage on this, but they are more likely to marry an abuser.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see it, because they would feel like that's what's normal. That's what a man's supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm. They just don't know. And they don't know what a man is supposed to be like at all. They have no orientation
they're
toward.
just taught that they're a sexual animal.
Yeah. And so I wanted to get into this one just for a moment. It also has resulted in terrible body image and eating disorders. She says, born in 1992, I grew up during the shimmery golden age of the evangelical purity movement.
She was born in 92?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So she would have been, 2002. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right in there. Purity culture set impossible standards for evangelical girls, planting the seed of self-hate when we didn't measure up. We came to regard our bodies with suspicion, and even to outright reject them as dangerous and inherently sinful. So she began to starve herself.
And I do feel like that was very common with millennials.
Really?
What, the starving themselves?
Yeah, I do. Because you're Gen X, right?
He's a boomer.
I'm right on the line.
And say, because I'm a millennial, and so I feel like this was very prevalent in. And like I said, I wasn't raised in church, but I was very aware of the culture going on around me.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was a very big thing within within the school.
Well, I know that there was a wave of eating disorders when I was probably in my 20s. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody was, but she says, as Christian girls, we have to dress modestly, I was told at church. Wearing revealing clothing could cause the boys to lust, which was a sin. I feared my shape would attract attention from the boys, or worse, appear that I was trying to attract their attention, both of which my church taught me was evil. So, in 2006, I decided to become an anorexic.
Just to get rid of all shape.
That was a conscious decision.
Dang.
I was 15. I was sitting on my computer at home looking for inspiration, fascinated by sickly thin pictures of women on the internet. The concept was simple enough. Eat less, exercise more, get skinnier. Deny myself, just like Jesus would. It was a completely holy act, just like fasting. And she goes on. It just, within a year, she had lost, I don't know, 30 pounds, and she wasn't much to start with. So it was all as a direct result of this particular message.
Yeah.
See, I never would have put that together with it, though.
I would not have either.
And so it's crazy to think with just this one little legalistic area, and I'm not even talking about the broader church, I'm talking about just with the purity culture. It can stem so much damage physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
I know, and that's why it's good for us to talk about it. It's good for us as men to talk about this. I think, especially men who have daughters.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: how many times in your dating lives has a woman come hit on you, or have you had to go hit on a woman?
Well, I don't know. I can't think back that far.
I don't know. I've probably had a pretty good blend, to be honest with you.
Like I said, I've always been the one to initiate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've had girls hit on me before, but I mean, most times, I had to be like, hey, would you like to go out? Would you like to go do this? Would you like to go do that? And, and I bet women from my generation, I bet they weren't too bold with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the ones that I really wanted to date, I took the initiative.
That is true. Yes, that is true. I had some ask that I didn't want.
That was always an issue. Okay, so we're going to finish up these last few minutes debunking the whole men were made that way, and they're just lustful animals.
Except Logan.
That's right. He's full of scubalon.
I mean, I tell my wife, after a few days, I start to get kind of like a rabid dog around the house.
And he's talking about dragging his butt on the carpet.
That's right. That's right.
We're not going to get into oversharing. Okay, so Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount makes this curious statement. He says, "You have heard it said," he said that a lot.
Yep.
"You have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks on a woman to lust for her has committed adultery with her already in his heart." And then here's the famous line, "And if your right eye makes you stumble, tear it out and throw it from you. For it is better for you than one of the parts of your body perish than for your whole body to be thrown in hell."
Yeah.
So he's taking the responsibility and putting it on us.
He goes on. "And if your right hand makes you stumble, cut it off and throw it from you. For it is better for you that one of the parts of your body perish than for your whole body to go into hell."
Okay, so for our fundamentalist friends, as Jesus telling us to disfigure our body if we have impure thoughts at a woman.
Yeah, well, he says if your eye offends you, or makes you stumble, or if your right hand makes you stumble. This is the interesting thing, because when he says, you shall not commit adultery, that's, what is it, command number 7, something like that, somewhere in there. It's 1 of 10 anyway.
Yeah.
But he mentions his dominant eye and dominant hand.
Okay, we're going to get right to that. But first, he's he's calling them out because they're trying to play around with the rules as well. Well, I didn't technically, commit adultery.
Yeah.
You're skating all around it. Yeah. You're just,
you're like, we just looked at the menu.
That's exactly right. He's talking about looks on a woman to lust for her. Lust, that means to take possession of and do what you will. Okay, so that's very important there. We know the power dynamic in their day. We know that women were property, and he's not even just saying on a married woman. He's talking about any woman. Yeah. So here's to your point, Pat. We think he's talking about what you see and then what you do, but he's talking about the eye, which is your influence, and he's talking about the right hand, which is your power.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we can read all kinds of stuff. I mean, this will convict almost every one of us. That's because if we use our influence to lust after a woman, or if we use our power, then we're going to be thrown into hell.
Yeah. So what would be an example of influence and power?
Well, I mean, we talked about the whole grooming thing, right? You're in a position of power. Somebody, looks up to you and you just start down the road, Oh, you look very, very beautiful today. Oh, how about you accompany me on this little journey across town, and then and one thing after another. And then it's, here, have this drink. And then, it's all over.
So is it the Bill Cosby special?
So are you telling me that it's not some guy glancing around the room and be like, oh, no, I'm going to hell now.
No. See,
I got a buddy who comes over to my house all the time, and any kind of commercial or anything comes on during the fights, the ring girls, when they walk through, he does this one.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
And I mean, that's cool. That's personal conviction.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I keep trying to tell them it's deeper than that.
Well, it goes beyond just the surface level physical stuff. Okay, so what Jesus is saying is any attitude or any approach, it's like if arrogance is causing you to stumble,
sure,
get rid of your arrogance.
Yeah.
Put it away.
Yeah.
And so, all of the so-called stereotypical characteristics of a typical man.
Yeah.
Put them away.
Yeah.
Just, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. So
this is Jesus telling men, hey, act right.
Well, and here's the interesting thing about it is, it says, you have heard it said that you shall not commit adultery. Now, men and women can commit adultery, right?
Yeah.
And we know that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were women who wanted to commit adultery then, so on and so forth. But he says that statement, and then he immediately starts to talk to the men.
Right.
Only men. And there were men and women all around, And I wonder how many of the women were going, get him, Jesus. Say it all, man. Yeah. Preach it, right. Because he says, everyone who looks on a woman, let's just put it right out there in the open.
Yep.
Yeah. With lust for her.
And who had influence and power in these days?
Oh, it was all the men.
Oh, man.
It was absolutely the men. Yeah. So he's saying, just staying away from adultery is not the whole picture.
Yeah.
If you are using your influence and your power to take control of a situation or to, froth at the mouth over,
Yeah.
Okay. So then it gets back to what you were talking about a minute ago. And this is what Sheila and Rebecca say all the time. And I believe this. I think this is such good advice that looking is not lusting.
Right.
Okay. So men and women both were hardwired to notice somebody attractive.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just period. It's
our biology.
We would never have any children if we didn't do that sort of thing. So it's not a sin to look at somebody and say, that is a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Now, I think we all know where the line is.
Yeah. You start gawking and things like that. It becomes.
And if your fantasy world starts moving and if your imagination starts to go, and before you know it, I mean, you're fully engaged in this whole, kind of scenario, Yeah, that's lust, and Jesus says you've just committed adultery. And so, I think we need to kind of all take a big deep breath here, because looking is not lusting.
Yeah. So essentially, we don't need the blinders; we need our caution lights on.
Yeah, and we just need to have wisdom here. Because it comes back down to what we talked about with all these taboos. What is your motive behind it?
Check your heart.
Yes,
exactly. And your, I mean, Lord, like we said, I mean, self-control. Like we have self-control.
Yes, we do.
Like you say, I can visibly see. I should not have to actually cover my eyes if I see a good-looking woman.
Yeah.
Like I can have the self-control to see a good-looking woman, and like say, be like, that's a good-looking woman.
Yes.
All right. What am I going to eat for lunch today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, exactly.
You know what I love about the word self-control is that first word.
Self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's rather you got it or you don't.
Yeah.
Because it's on you.
And ladies, I'm gonna unveil something. I'm gonna tell secrets on you. The research statistics.
Good job.
You did it. You got it.
Say now this is a big myth that men are visual creatures and women are not. Women are emotional creatures. Yep. That is not true.
Oh no,
it is not true. I always thought it was true, but no. They actually did peer-reviewed scientific research, and it's almost exactly equal.
Well, look at that.
Oh my God, it's like it's almost a human thing.
It is a human thing.
Oh wow, I didn't see that coming.
I didn't either, because I'm not that visual apparently. No, so when you see, next time you see your wife at the beach wearing sunglasses,
you know what she's
that
doing.
Little sneaky dog's up to. Yep.
As Logan puts his sunglasses on.
Oh, mine are always on.
Yeah. No, it is natural. It's completely natural for us to look at each other.
Sure.
And when we see somebody that is attractive or cut or buff or whatever, to notice that.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different. Like when you're preaching Sunday, right? Everyone's watching you. And when you get into worship, right, Stacy? Ever
Pat's
since
like, that is an attractive guy.
I was like, look at that shine. No, but like when Peter's getting into it, I would point out to Stacy when Peter's playing piano and he's getting into it, he does this kick off to the side.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it gets me going, man. And now Stacy every Sunday she's like, oh yeah, Peter did the kick. Blah, blah. And so is my wife sitting here checking out this other man? No. Like it's not that, people. Y'all calm down.
Yeah.
Dang, well, like I'm not that attractive. Yeah.
Like with most of this, I feel like people just need to lighten up.
Yeah.
Well, I think honestly, we need to put everything in proper perspective.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's once we see this little passage this way, it's becomes clearer what Jesus is really talking about here.
Yeah.
And lusting is damaging. Lusting is objectification. And the ironic thing about this purity culture thing is it caused women and their bodies to be more objectified, not less objectified.
Peter, you're more spiritually mature than Logan and I. So
you don't say.
He's calling me a lot older. Yeah.
Do you ever think it's a good idea to teach or preach out of fear?
No, I do not. I do not.
I don't feel like we should instill fear in people, and that's why you need to follow this.
Yeah.
No, and shame. No shame. Shame is one of the most damaging elements out there. I think it's very important to tell people dangerous consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
truth.
You got to lay those out.
Yeah.
And they can, see how the Holy Spirit hits them with it, because it hits me the same way.
Yeah.
But no, I've moved way beyond that. I don't, turn to burn things. No.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't off base.
No. And certainly would never, Jesus never shamed anybody. He had compassion on people that other people were shaming.
Yeah.
Case in point, the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah.
You want to talk about shame?
Woman at the well.
Yeah. And I mean, this woman caught in adultery, they dragged her naked into the town square.
Yeah.
On purpose. And it was a whole setup thing because they wanted to see what Jesus was going to do about it. And so they used this poor woman, which is why he had compassion on her, and which is why I believe when he wrote in the dirt, I believe he was writing stuff on
Each one of them. Yeah.
And as when they read themselves, they just walked away.
I always joke, when I get to heaven, that's one of the first things I'm going to ask Jesus is what he wrote. And I really hope he looks at me and goes, do you know how many times I've answered that question? And he doesn't even answer me, just shakes his head.
You know what? There'll probably be a sign.
Yeah.
Just a sign.
This is what it said.
I wrote.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's part of the intro program.
All right. I wanted to close with just a couple of little.
Gotcha.
Couple little positives.
And then I want us to summarize.
We will summarize. Okay. So here's they have this little document that says, instead of saying this, say this. Okay. I'm just going to do a couple. So instead of saying boys will push girls' boundaries, say you are capable of resisting temptation and you are responsible not to violate anyone else's boundaries.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
It is.
Yes. Instead of saying all men struggle with lust, it is every man's battle. Instead say, lust is a battle many people struggle with. In Christ, we are no longer slaves to sin, but to the Spirit. When the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
Yep.
Instead of saying men are visually stimulated, say people are visually stimulated. Some more than others. And often, but not always, men to a greater degree. But being visually stimulated does not mean you are doomed to lust.
Right. Yep.
Logan said this, I think off air, but he's exactly right. If women weren't visually stimulated, why would Magic Mike have a movie?
Yeah. I mean,
3 of them, right?
Several of them. Yeah.
If you don't know, never mind. Don't Google it, please. Don't Google that. Here's let's see. Okay. Yes. Last one. Instead of saying bounce your eyes to ensure you never become tempted by women around you, instead say treat and respect women as whole people made in the image of God.
I can get behind all those.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. That's just the very beginning. Yeah. And then go purchase a copy of She Deserves Better and read it to your young girls. Yep. And it will encourage them, and it'll encourage you too, because there are so many better ways to do this. So
it is refreshing to hear someone come at it logically and decide that this ancient way of viewing things is done a lot of damage. Yeah, we gotta fix this.
They're doing some really, really good work in this area.
It's encouraging,
and I think that what we want is to give our young people, boys and girls, young men, young women, the tools.
To equip them
to negotiate this very toxic culture that we live in.
Yeah,
and it's got to be better than just cover your body and bounce your eyes.
Yep, for sure.
Got to be better than that. Yeah. Okay, summary.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you on kind of because I like to do kind of a yay or nay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the end. So my question here, or I guess first thing preface would be, we're obviously not condoning premarital sex.
No.
Like I feel like we laid that out there pretty well. Getting into the lust thing, obviously, if you go to if you act upon the lust, that would mean premarital sex.
That's it.
But so I'm trying to think, what would you say for the parent that's out there that has a young daughter? How would you tell them to navigate this? Because it is, or not even just a young daughter, they have a son or daughter. How would you tell them to kind of navigate this without just making them be sex is bad?
Well, I don't know if I know all the answers to this, because every parent is different and every child is different. And you'll find this out soon enough. Some children are, a little more rebellious than others, and others are, a lot more passive and thoughtful and things like that. So I think you have to treat each one case by case. But I want to continue to reinforce that they are valuable. I used to tell my girls all the time, until you get to a particular age where you make your own decisions, you're my prized possession.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm going to treat you like my prized possession.
Yeah.
You're the most valuable thing that I have and that I keep care of. And the same thing with my son, said the same thing. And I did my best to teach him how to do everything with respect, including how he treated the girls that he was dating.
Yeah.
And I just think if you combine good parenting, which is never perfect, but it's good, with
Tove.
Tove parenting with good teaching in the church, with none of this misguided stuff.
Yeah.
This one-sided, convoluted stuff. We need to do better.
Yeah.
And because good church and good parents are a winning combination.
That's a great team, ain't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And you really shouldn't have one without the other.
Yep.
So,
well, we got the good church.
Yes, we do.
I think Mom would say, when I have to have that conversation with my daughter, I would say, you are not responsible for other people's actions.
Yeah.
And your behavior is a reflection of your heart's intention.
Yeah.
And so if you feel comfortable dressing in shorts and a tank top, go for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to recommend my kid wear booty shorts. If there's something that's across the line, I'm going to say something.
We drew the line.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
and they knew why.
yeah. But also, though, I'm never going to parent my kid from a situation of fear.
Fear and shame.
I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I think that this good teaching needs to get out there. I think that we need to reframe the way we think about this stuff, and all take responsibility for. You say, well, one of the things I did tell my daughters is that you have the right to set boundaries.
Yep.
And then whoever you're dating has the requirement to live by those boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think we can come to say it this way. Instead of saying we lean liberally or conservatively on this, we can say that let's have a conversation about this as opposed to ignore it.
Yeah.
I think if we are going to guide our children in the way of chastity until they then it's our responsibility to tell them what in the world's going on.
Yeah.
And even to share some negative experiences that we might have had.
But then parents would have to talk to their children.
I know.
And seeing, I think, obviously kids you don't go into detail, but sex is great. And and I think that children ought to know that, sex in a marriage and a loving home like that, it's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like instead of just constantly, like you say, letting them hear the bad, the fear, and you do this, you get pregnant, or you're breaking God's cut, instead of just constantly hitting them over the head with that, then I'm like, hey, this is God designed this. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And as when we're talking about the boundaries thing too, it's important to tell your son.
Yeah, for sure.
You have boundaries too.
Yeah.
And it may operate slightly differently than your girlfriend's boundaries, but you got to have them. Yeah. And you stay by those.
You treat other people with respect, but also treat yourself with respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I think honestly, I think we did better than I thought I was going to do.
I did too. I thought we were going to spend a lot more time on yoga pants.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a lot more ahs,
awkwardness.
Yeah.
Well, we're 21st century men,
we are.
And we're sophisticated, and I feel like we've heard our fair share of women getting the blame.
Yeah.
For a lot of crap that's not really on them.
Yeah.
And men being sent the wrong messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've witnessed this in the church, in society, in the world today enough that we're kind of just over it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very urgent situation.
I do too.
I think that our young people are just there's so much information coming at them, they don't know what to think half the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's where we need to step in, especially in this area, because this is the minefield that they're going to negotiate before they negotiate anything else in life. They'll have to figure this out to some degree before they start a bank account, before they get a job. It's right there in front of them.
If your kid goes to a co-ed school, they got to start figuring it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and even if they don't.
Well, like you say, their hormones will be going before their bank account.
Absolutely.
That's true.
So, manage your hormones. All right. This has been great. It has been great. And if we left anything out, or if we, we're not clear on some things.
If we're off base, let us know.
Absolutely.
If we said something to offend the women or the men, let us know. Like we
comment below.
We want to understand your opinion.
But please just give us a little credit for having the courage
to speak for women,
to jump into this thing with both feet. But this is something we really, really wanted to talk about.
I still feel like I refrained pretty well.
You did. You did. I'm proud.
Yeah.
I would say both of you did. Yeah. All right, everybody. You know what to do. Share it. Share it with a friend.
Yeah.
Hit the like button. Comment below.
Comment. Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week.
Absolutely.